Let's get a little weird. Let's get a little odd. Those sounds you like to hear. We got it going on. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Oddcast, where we talk about folks who are turning their passion into paychecks, passion into profession, whether it be art in any way, shape, or form. I'm joined here today by the great Aleck and the wonderful Carla. Aleck is a illustrator, muralist, basically a jack of all trades when it comes to any type of illustration or street art or anything like that. Carla's an up-and-coming tattoo artist, and they are both here representing beautiful San Diego, BSD group. Guys, how you doing today?
Go ahead.
Can't complain.
I'm having a good day too.
Good.
Awesome. It's great to have you here at the Oddcast. We appreciate your time so much.
Super stoked to be here, Mike. Thanks for having us over.
Absolutely. So, I guess, just to open-end it, we'll start off with beautiful San Diego. What's it all about? I know that's a very open-ended question, but just give the viewers a little, nice summary for us.
You gonna let me take this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the truth about that question is there's a lot of layers to that.
Yeah.
Anytime you kind of jump headfirst into a project, I think we're learning more and more that we just don't ever know where it's going to end up.
Wow.
We really started this at the beginning of 2018 with the idea that we did want to escape the monotonous 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. And what that looked like to us was just being able to paint every day. Mm-hmm. And so we started a little think tank and did some brainstorming on how we could come up with a semi-lucrative, self-sustaining business plan that gave us the opportunity to create every day.
Okay. So it's a business plan that allows you to basically do what you love and do it with who you love.
Yes, correct.
That's the way to say it at the 20,000 foot level. And I mean, obviously throughout the episode, we're going to peel back the layers.
Yeah.
Needless to say. So I know I read on in your bio, you've been basically illustrating forever. You've done a lot of street art. What really was the actual inception of it though? Was there a specific thing where you were like, this is what I love?
So my whole life I did love doing it, but never really thought that I could synonymously chase my passion and make it lucrative without selling out on some level. Only kind of later on in my 20s did I really think that I identified success as a much different thing, and it motivated me to step back into chasing art as a career, which kind of transformed out of trying to make money, if that makes sense.
Interesting. And to that point, to speak to tattoo art at that point, what I would ask is how does that play into tattoo art? Because I know, some people might not even look at it as art. Some people just think, oh, that's a marking on my body. But it's going to be obviously symbolic of something. It's going to be art to whoever has it on them and to the artist. When did you kind of make that leap in your head of, oh, I'm going to turn this into my profession?
Yeah, honestly, so I've been doing also fine art since I was tiny, but I didn't see it ever as a career. It was always something that was super comforting that I'd always lean back to that I knew I could. And then as I got older and actually met Aleck, I started pursuing back into the creative fine art, and then I just started creating nonstop. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I'm yearning to do this, but I need to financially support this. So how am I going to do that? And then a random coworker was like, dude, why aren't you trying to become a tattoo artist? I'm like, I don't know.
You didn't have an answer.
Yeah, no answer, because I had never thought of it. And then Alex was like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And then just poof, this cool thing happened, and I was set up in a really cool situation, and then it kind of just manifested itself.
Yeah.
Wanting to go for the love of art.
Yeah,
happened.
I think that proves a lot of what's interesting about what we were talking about earlier, where it's not as hard as people really make it out to be. It's more just taking that initial leap, that initial risk. And I know self-belief and self-motivation sound very corny, but they're huge in a business where and I shouldn't say business, but inherently there's going to be a business side.
Yeah.
But self-motivation and self-preservation and self-belief are just going to be huge in terms of like starting up your own scene where it's, not a necessarily defined industry where you can say, oh, I'm going to get this degree, get a 401k, have a dental and health plan. It's totally different than that.
Yeah.
But that's some of the attractiveness of it in a certain sense. I mean, the freedom.
I mean, I would even touch on that a little bit further in the sense that in every artist, there's something deep down in there that wants to do it their way. They want to wake up, they want to do what they want to do each day, and some days when they don't feel like doing it, they don't want to wake up at all. So I think that freedom kind of kicks you out of the nest. I mean, that chase to be yourself and not waking up every day and spending your first 8 hours doing something that, hey, like, I know people like their jobs, but there's a difference between being okay working a 9 to 5 and waking up excited to crush a new project like that. That whole thing is driven from a place of trying to chase that freedom. I'll even touch a little bit further on that and say that you were talking about how you thought that it wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
And as much as I don't want to beat people up who are having a little bit of trouble motivating to get themselves, say, kicked out of the nest, but I will say that the social networks, Instagram and Facebook, they all really highlight people's strong points and good days. And that the big difference between someone who gets any chance to turn something passionate into the opportunity to potentially pay for their life or anything at all. I think that starts from the exact things that we're touching on, these places where you really just have to want to be your own person, and you have to be disciplined enough to do those easy things like wake up every day. Like take care of your bills, like do the shit that I think the more adolescent and younger artist looks at and identifies as less crucial or as a sellout part of the step. And they're all such important stepping stones on your way to understanding how to make this sort of life work for you.
Interesting. So would you say, to touch on, to carry on with that for a second, would you say that within the art community, sometimes there is a perception, you said with the youth, that doing that is quote unquote selling out, like paying your bills and such? Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting.
I mean, just living some sort, just answering to people, being accountable, having to show up for your appointments, having to pay your bills, like understanding that you play a role at the bottom of some people's totem poles, I feel like is kind of hard when people are going through their Madonna artist phases where they're the center of their life and they're really upset when everything doesn't happen the way that they think it should happen.
Wow. That's interesting. That's really interesting. I think one of the things that you both said too, when you said you were set up with a really good situation, and you said BSD, Beautiful San Diego, is much more than just a collective of artists, is that it's kind of a collective of like-minded folks who back each other and give each other the support and network that's necessary within that community.
Yeah, that's what it's birthed to be, and we're definitely okay with that. We think that we want to identify ourselves as the most capable, the most reliable, and the best collective of artists, so that whether people need murals or they need someone to come in and take professional photographs of anything from music venues to real estate, we want to be the first people they look at to understand, like, look, you're not only getting the best artwork that San Diego has to offer, like, you're going to get promoted by a group of artists that have already defined themselves as parts of San Diego's community. So we're hoping that we can give people an entire package.
And I think to speak to that too, you were saying how, fully the big point inherently being San Diego seems like a great community for artists and like-minded folks in your position. Also, you were saying how you had the real estate thing with the 6 bedrooms down in Sorry, where was it again?
It's in Golden Hill where our headquarters is at. Yeah.
Golden Hill. And you can find them at bsdmurals.com. We'll put it up on the screen for everyone, but that's bsdmurals.com.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram.
Yep.
Check out our YouTube channel.
Exactly. Definitely. We'll give all that information in the but
appreciate that.
Definitely no. It's more than worth your time. And look, that's especially if you're in San Diego, but even if you're not in San Diego and just want some, dope content to check out and look at and kind of see what artists in San Diego are all about.
Yeah. We don't exclusively work with people from San Diego, but we're exclusively out to make an impact on the communities here
in San Diego.
So we're willing to work with anybody who wants to work with awesome artists.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. And near and far. Yeah. So collabs, hit them up. Again, if you want dope content, hit them up. It's all good. So to speak to that, I think San Diego is such an interesting city. We were saying, especially North County is so interesting right now, like the proximity to Los Angeles without the insane kind of traffic and not necessarily different vibe, but there's a different vibe down here where, you feel like it's a little easier maybe to reach out to people and like it's more likely that they're going to get back to you just because there's less going on. I think what we were saying, and like a lot of people could take that as a negative, but if there's less going on, that means vacuum and there's a pocket for you to hop into.
Yeah. I mean, I think that anytime you hear people say anything negative about a potential art community or a lack thereof, like what I really hear is, there's no one that's competing with people who have the ability to do this well. We haven't ever looked at San Diego's lack of an art community as a negative. From the very get-go, I was from Los Angeles, and I saw San Diego as such a high potential community with such a diverse set of communities within.
Yeah.
So I always thought that capitalizing on this sort of situation was much easier than trying to make a name for yourself in some sort of magnetic or lightning spot like New York or LA, where pretty much everyone is going to attempt to do the same thing.
Yeah. Even if it's like the side hustle, they're like, oh, I have a shirt company. Oh, I have this company.
I'm a director. I'm a producer. Yeah, so are we, buddy.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think there is such a community feel about San Diego, and it does not feel like a top 10 city in terms of population. I mean, even though I think it has the resources of a city with the top 10.
And geographically, it's huge.
Oh, yeah, geographically, it's massive. There's so many different, ecosystems within San Diego. It's pretty wild. Yeah, and it starts when you're driving back from Arizona. San Diego County starts so early. It's wild. It's wild. So, I mean, there's whether it's inspiration or whether it's collaboration, there's so much to do down here in terms of art, I'm sure.
I mean, you should even touch on this community. You're the native.
I know. I was gonna say.
We're two foreigners here talking like we know.
I mean, shoot. So growing up, born in '93, the art scene was either the Spanish Village in Balboa Park.
Wow.
You knew that. You're like, oh, if I want to find a bunch of artists, I'm gonna go to that little epicenter with the cool colored tiles. Or you would go over to Barrio Logan, since they had the really cool murals underneath the bridge, and that was kind of a big deal for this kind of, I don't know how to say it. I found, in a sense, San Diego was almost sterilized in a way.
Wow.
Of art, not, and I'm not blaming military at all, but obviously the city was created as a port, and it was more industrial, and it was less art stricken. So it was okay, you have these two little pockets, and then I've seen it grow. Then it was North Park, and then that created this scene, Ray at Night, and then so slowly it's been everyone's kind of trickling in.
Yeah.
And it's there's so much opportunity, but at the same time,
it's hard to pull a crowd.
It's there's a sleepiness to San Diego.
I mean, when the weather's always perfect and the beach is always there, if you're going to get someone to come see you, you better be doing something really cool.
Yeah.
Because it's really nice out.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. There's something to be said about sometimes I think the layout of San Diego, people just are well, I want to stay in my North County pocket, or I want to stay in even within North County, people want to stay a little further north, whether it's like Encinitas or Carlsbad, and they just don't like getting on the freeway. But there is a sleepiness to San Diego. It's interesting. So I wonder, I think that's what's so interesting about Instagram, what's so interesting about the creation of websites via Squarespace or via Wix or whatever. I think that stuff is so interesting. And we were talking about how our generation was also kind of the first generation that not only is able to manage our own business like the generation prior to us, but run our own social media,
which is
create our own websites.
Potentially the most crucial part of surviving in the business world nowadays.
Really? Would you say so?
I mean, I'm not the person to make those calls.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It seems to me that it's what's defining the people who are able to survive from the people who are just popping up and disappearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, a following is a following. If you can, a number's one thing, but if you can get people to directly engage with you without a middleman, like there's a power to owning your own artwork that we've never seen before. So the potential I feel for artists is untapped. I mean, if you own your own artwork and you're putting it out there and you're directly interacting with the people that love and support your work, then for the first time ever, we're getting to see real artwork. Because if there's someone in between you and the people who get it, like there's an avenue that you're running down where, whether people like to admit it or not, that's censorship.
Wow.
And I mean, can you be an artist while simultaneously answering to somebody who gets to decide if your bills get paid? So now we're kind of showing how these two lives they're inevitably going to run parallel and intersect one another from time to time, and you're just going to have to learn how to play every instrument and learn how to graphic design and learn how to handle a camera and a microphone and a pen and a paintbrush. Like, this is no joke.
And like you said, to come back full circle, pay your bills, get back to people, interact with people. Like, we met on social media and we got back to each other every time. And I think, like, regardless, there's going to be an inherent, like, trust that's, like, built in your minds where it's like, oh, I can, hit up the folks at the ODDCAST and they'll hit us back. Oh, I can hit up Aleck. I can hit up Carla, and boom, I got to follow you.
But with the millennials and the Z generation, we're seeing the value in the quick get back or the I mean, what are the words I'm looking for?
It's like the quick interaction.
All of the things that play into being a good person that's good at relationships, whether it be communication, honesty, being punctual, like those values, they seem to be taking a back seat. And to what I don't know. But I definitely am not getting that these people are understanding things to that same level. Granted, I think, again, that's opening a huge door for the artists who are answering their phones and their emails. Like, artists, answer your phones and your emails. People want to give you jobs, but you got to get back to them.
Yeah. I totally agree. And, cliches are cliche for a reason, but, word is bond is always a good thing. And when you think that, even whether it's on Instagram or whatever, you think if you send someone an email, they'll probably get back to you within, it doesn't have to be immediately. They have stuff going on, but at least in a time basis where it's like, it's not sitting around.
If you can't throw an email together, how can you throw a production together? Like, that's my real question. If you can't make your bed, how are you running a business? And maybe Instagram and the other social networks they're able to feed the illusion that success is where it isn't. So the people who are waking up every day are competing with a pool of people who aren't, but they're able to project that they are because they do understand the platform. Wow. So I think a lot of the networking is just sifting through the people who aren't really doing anything. Yeah, which is, when you're in California, that's a big part of the population.
And it's beautiful here, so you can literally, it's just so much easier to kind of...
Yeah, snap a picture here, snap a picture here, hashtag production, hashtag photo shoot, hashtag Insta model, and bam, bam, bam. Yeah, hashtag Cali life, hashtag San Diego, and you're in.
Will you see people do weird ones of muralist and they're not a muralist even and stuff like that?
Yeah. And I'm not policing hashtags.
But no, is that kind of odd to see a little bit?
Yeah, it's just we're in a whole new terrain.
Yeah, we are. And hey, like you said, it's better to focus and use the positives of it,
absolutely,
than the negative. Like that can be said about anything. And I think I think that's one of the things that maybe in the business world sometimes people don't like need as much, where you need that like inherent like self-motivation, positivity of like taking the best situation or taking the worst situation and making the best of it, because everything's laid out. Like you can go to HR with a problem, or you can report it to your supervisor, or there's these set ways that about doing things, where we're in a more like nebulous, where like you said, maybe we can view it as integrity right now isn't valued, but that's perfect for people like us, where we value integrity and treat people with integrity and respect, because
absolutely.
The talent is there, right? So you add integrity to that, that's going to beat out, hard work plus talent beats out just talent any day.
Yeah, agreed. 1,000,000%.
Yeah. That's interesting. I feel like too, specifically for street art and tattoo art, like being able to have access to, something where you can have thousands of followers, with some hard work, but where it would have been so hard to, you could probably take a cool video of you learning a process, or a good side by side of this is my improvement. I mean, and it's vastly, you can garner a great relationship with your fans too.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. The what it's provided is
it's like vast. Yeah, you can't even.
Go ahead. I mean, as a female, it might be even more of a powerful tool.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's so much opportunity. And as well, I was going to say, as a female, we know that we can also go off of using the beauty card. Not that that's at all a bad thing. I think that's great. However, it's always, you're teetering. Like I can see my percentage of following, and unfortunately it's still like 70% men, 30% women. And I mean, I'm very liberal with the images that I post, but I try to keep that as a spectrum. I'm like, yeah, I am this human that is very exhibitionist and chill, and then I also love my art. Yeah. So it's just giving you room to kind of, especially as a woman, deciding like how the image that you're trying to present. Honestly, I don't know how to pull it to as being a chick. What were you thinking?
Well, no, I don't want to make this all.
No,
this is interesting.
I don't want to charge this too much with some political dissonance, but like how I feel is just like it doesn't take a genius to understand like what your strong suits as an individual are, and Instagram for artists, and I keep referring to Instagram because it's the network that particularly appeases to people who are putting out visual art.
I would totally agree.
Yeah. There's an ability for girls to capitalize on this in particular, because unfortunately, culturally, dare I'm treading on some very thin ice here, we understand that we are very captivated by the female figure.
Yes.
And just like you're saying, hard work and talent beats out talent every day. Looking stunning naked times talent times understanding is even deadlier of a combo.
Absolutely.
So we're just handing some very, very powerful tools to some people who haven't necessarily in the past had access to these same tools, and we're seeing how some of them understand how to utilize these tools, and then other ones are committing suicide via these same tools.
Interesting.
And so the juxtaposition's gnarly, but just like with any powerful tool, people are finding out how it's benevolent and dangerous all in one.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing. I think we're at the point where it's been around for a long enough time where you can almost, we're still learning every day, but you can kind of know what direction you want to take it in and take it in that direction, whether you want to grow organically, whether you want to pay one of those networks, whether you want to do this or that and the third. I mean, there's so many different options at this point. I mean, there's a whole industry based on people who grow your Instagram following. It's wild.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, that whole thing, the whole Instagram thing could be several podcasts on its own, because the influence of that directly and indirectly with how it's affecting art culture in San Diego alone, it's just it's so vast. I couldn't even begin to try and sum that shit up in just a couple of paragraphs.
That's right. I mean, like, oh man, you have a good point.
And even so much to touch back on what you said, like the whole idea between like a lot of noise and chatter as an artist already existing in the fact that you're going against the grain when you're telling the people in your life that you don't want to work the taxable 9 to 5, that you want to do something different, and that generally the people who have pursued the same things, that their life is harder.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. Like, when you're going to the people that you love and telling them, I want to take this X path instead of Y path, like, these people want you to take Y path because they're vested in your life being easy because they love you. And so I think already females that are entrepreneurs, they're very, very comfortable going against that grain. Mm-hmm. I think re-identifying yourself as a male, it tends to be harder emotionally on men.
Interesting.
I think females, their ability to be diverse as individuals and emotionally gives them an upper hand and dare I say, they have an upper hand in a vast array of things in modern times, which I'm not upset about.
Yeah.
But to think that it doesn't go unnoticed or it doesn't exist, I think that they've got a lot of really unique avenues and tools made available to them. And I think that society has a very cool way of letting karma play out and balancing what's imbalanced. The pendulum swings, and the girls had it hard for a really long time. And I think we're entering an era that favors their natural abilities.
I have extra tools.
Yeah. So it's all. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't want that to sound negative at all. I just think it's nature's way of balancing.
The pendulum does swing. The pendulum does swing. It always does. It always will. It's just true. That's a really interesting point. I think that within that, it's cool that BSD is setting up kind of that collective too, where it's like you can recruit people from who are already connected with the community. So like that being said, you're a muralist, you're a tattoo artist. You guys said you had hired a couple of videographers 2 months ago. And
we don't like to use the term hired.
Teamed up with.
Teamed up with, yes.
Teamed up with, yeah. That's the corporate culture there. No, I'm just kidding. No. That's really cool, and I like the idea of kind of spreading it within the San Diego community. Have you done a lot of collab work with artists from out of town?
Let me use that to segue into kind of exactly what this has panned out to be. So the short answer to your question is no, we haven't collaborated with any out of town artists yet. We spent 2018 building the social, building the website. We had a tiny existing team of 4 people at the time.
Wow.
We had a graphic artist, we had Carla, we had a letter artist, and then we had me, a street artist.
Sorry, what is letter artist?
Like a calligraphy.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah, like a letter, like all sorts of lettering.
Yeah.
So I don't want to limit this person to calligraphy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, all sorts of lettering and all sorts of terminology that I'm not super savvy with and don't want to barbecue this guy's industry.
I'm sure that even includes like branding within lettering.
All kinds of typography and all that. Yeah. So we started out just kind of wanting to donate murals, and what we did was recruit a bunch of San Diego sponsors in the way of small businesses. And as that kind of snowballed into some momentum with the website and the Instagram, we realized that the idea of keeping it sectored to muralists or graphic artists or whatever the branch of art that you're into may be, that was just limiting us, because what we ultimately wanted to do was be able to share our experiences with the community. So that meant that we had to come up with some media guys and some photographers, and it's one thing to go paint a mural that you can go by and see every day, but if we want the world to see something that they don't have the opportunity to drive by, that means we need to be able to present it to them. So after a couple of murals, we thought, it was going so well. Our thought process was, we better figure out a way to document this, because this is kind of crazy that everything's fallen into place so well and been so much fun that other people are going to want to see this. And that's when we kind of put the brakes on and thought, okay, let's let's put a way deeper roster together. Let's get our sponsors way deeper as well. Like, we stepped back because we saw the potential of what BSD could be, and we were like, what we wanted was tiny. Like, let's make it really cool. So since then, we haven't really even been doing projects for the last 6 months. We've literally just been putting our team together, getting our finances in place, and trying to get everything. And we have I'm happy to announce that at the end of January, we have a really, really big video and project coming out that features our sponsors. It features our artists. It was done in-house. We want to show people what we can do. We want to show people that what we do is cooler than anything anyone's doing in San Diego.
Yep.
It's more fun, that we're more fun, and that honestly we're not exclusive. Like, we want to work with any artist who has integrity and wants to wake up every day and paint. We want to work with any business who wants to be involved in artists who care about their community, as opposed to someone who's just waiting on that paycheck.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So that's the end of January. And
we should say we're finishing up our filming the end of January.
Okay.
We're probably going to spend the beginning of February editing and getting everything right. And then we'll probably drop it middle of February. I want to be a lot more realistic and give ourselves a cushion. I get a little stressed out over this stuff.
I know. It's even when we book a few too many interviews, it's like, oh, we're gonna have to edit. So yeah, I totally see. I think it's also so powerful in terms of like the relationship between what you guys view as art at BSD and you both individually as to what we at the ODDCAST view as art. It's kind of really, it's what you want to make it, but it's so broad. It's so really like subjective, honestly, what you want and believe art to be. And I think that beautiful San Diego is definitely a representative of that, whether it be the roster, whether it be the products you guys put out. So it started at the inception was murals.
Yes.
Being a muralist must be such a unique form within art. It's kind of a combination between like large pieces and street art, probably a little bit of tagging within there. I mean, there must be so many different, and then the overall vision too of what it represents. So that's how for someone who has basically no idea on the outside looking in, can you? I know this is an open-ended question, but can you talk a little bit about what being a muralist is all about, how you get inspired to make a piece? I want to leave this open-ended for what you want to, you as well, because
go ahead. I've definitely learned to use a can myself, and it's so cool.
Really?
It's such a cool thing to have such control of something.
Can you kind of elaborate on what you mean for the people who don't know what a can is?
Thank you.
Yeah, true. You got
to step over to this side.
I know, right? Like your aerosol can of paint. So it's you just even the power with just your finger on the trigger of the actual spray can. You know that you're capable of unleashing all this paint. And you can just do whatever, and you can manipulate the actual like paint cap itself. So like, I'm not a master of it. Like, I'm not to the level of what Aleck is, but he's definitely passed down a lot of knowledge and how to understand that craft, and I respect it 100%. So he can definitely take it away.
I don't want to make other muralists, quote unquote, upset when I kind of describe what I think a muralist is here, so I'm gonna kind of. Oh no,
but art, like you said, we were saying earlier, art. It's objective. Like, what is it?
I think that the idea of street art and murals to me are a way to express yourself and try to get a bigger picture and bigger point across, both literally and metaphorically.
Wow.
And then literally just leave it at the wall and walk away and forget about it. Because truth be told, when you're doing something like studio art, when you're doing something like music, you fall in love with your project in a way that you're married to it and you never want to give it up. And it's always going to be exactly that. With the street art culture and the mural culture, like, you put something up with your heart and soul, but it's not yours. It becomes the people who view it. You don't get to take it home with you.
It's part of the community,
Yeah,
essentially.
you don't get to look at it as many times as you want, and it's going to continue to change forever. And someday soon, it's not going to be there. It's going to be a different mural. So it's part of an existing, growing, infinite chain of artwork, starting from when the building was resurrected that you painted that on, and then infinitely in the memories of the very last person who saw the very last thing on the very last wall that existed.
That's interesting.
So I kind of think like I know that sounds cheesy, but for me and someone who did a lot of illustrations that I've kept, those are a great example of my flaws, and that I'm very selfish in the sense that I want to keep what I create.
Yeah.
Like I even want to keep things I didn't create.
Yeah.
And that's not what creating artwork is about. Like it's about just creating it. And that's a hard thing to wrap your mind around because we really identify with the finished product.
Interesting. Wow. But that sounds like within murals, that's even more like exposed almost.
Yeah. I mean, people are going to come paint shit you don't like right on it. They're going to come tag some shit you don't like right on your mural. Like it exists in public space.
Whereas, like you can record a song and you can hear it a few days later and be like, oh, I like it on a different beat better.
Totally.
It's still, I mean, so it's the mural is living as well, but almost in a different sense than, in
an uncontrollable sense, because me
yeah.
as the creator doesn't get to choose if it gets laid over another beat next week.
Wow.
Some other artist is going to come along and potentially do that.
That's absolutely wild. The lack of control must be thrilling and terrifying all at the same time.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't even think of it that way. You actually kind of blew my mind. I was
Yeah,
all in
that's-
the thought of the can, but really though, what you said.
And the cans make it fun. The spray paint in general is it's such a cool, fast medium. You can do things that you can't do with other stuff. Like I'm not
Really?
putting a damper on the spray paint itself.
Sorry, the can is different than spray.
No. I just mean spray paint's different than all other mediums.
Yeah, totally. And is that because is there something about kind of the fluidity of the motion, or is there something where you can kind of like put?
The way that you did that made me kind of think of dancing, and I think there's an absolute dance and way that people move to get these motions of these beautiful lines. I think that it's the fact that you don't mix colors generally. You're getting you don't have to spend time overthinking. A lot of it's done in more simplistic palettes. The technique has to be super developed because you're so much more limited on the thickness and the weight of your lines. That's all very technical in spray paint, as to where something like brush painting, you can just get a skinnier brush. In spray painting, there is no skinnier brush.
It's your adjustment.
Your ability to do a skinny line is dependent on your understanding of the medium. And so, understanding that the people who have done the stuff you're emulating, that they love what you love in a level that they've done it more than you.
Wow.
It's a whole new thing, because in music, you can have a singer who's whatever. And she can go into the studio, and people are going to be mad at this, and she can sing, and on the back end we can clean her up. As engineers, you can use the equalizer, you can use compression, you can even use filters like auto-tune and other things to really make the most of it. With these other mediums, there's no back end. There's no training wheels. What you see is what they did, and they did it because they tried harder, were more patient, and spent more hours than you. The black and white nature of what we aspire to be is much more objective than subjective. And my science and math leaning brain, it loves that about the spray paint culture.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. That's interesting. That you just blew my mind again. These are awesome insights into stuff that I never.
It's
really
really
would have thought
hard to
about.
fake good at spray painting.
Yeah. I feel like you said, you have to aspire, or you have to be willing to learn from people who are better than you and been doing it longer than you, and also that being said, you have to be willing to also hand down knowledge, which you were saying you learn from him every day. So you have the full cycle going, as to where you're still, I'm sure you're still learning.
I'm learning way more than I feel like I'm teaching.
See, that's awesome. I think you even probably learned from teaching in a certain sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Because, she could have a unique perspective on, this is that. And, I
even
never
when
thought
you
about it from that way.
Yeah, even when you
Exactly.
articulate concepts, I think they help solidify them in your own mind.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think, that's always how I learned the best, was when I learned something and then someone asked me how to explain it. And if I could genuinely explain
Explain it back. You think, you got it.
not mastered it, but that's about as good. If you can legitimately pass on information, you can't.
As far as
Yeah.
classroom learning, like,
oh yeah,
all you can do is repeat it back. That's the best case scenario.
yeah. That's how. What do you call it? It's that's just memorize and regurgitate
Yep.
and then forget.
Yep.
And it's like.
Cycle.
It's that I think that to a certain extent does play into the factor of like what we're saying about escaping the 9 to 5, whereas like when you're in school they kind of set you up
They've
to be
been
broken,
grooming you for years.
to accept the fact that like accept the assumption that it's impossible except for the
what?
They make-
The
exactly.
what?
They don't have
invisible thing.
there's
Yeah.
see when
Weird.
exactly you could go like they apply like the how many people have become major league athletes or something like okay that there's tangible numbers.
But
I
that's
can say,
still a pretty high statistic.
oh I know it's much higher than because they groom it in the way they want to like
Yeah,
any
it's-
survey does. I mean they can Simon Says the heck out of the questions. I think that's super interesting. I think that anyone who has had like even whether it's an issue with no offense to a particular teacher, to a particular school, to a particular subject, and then kind of doubted the fact that we're being told every day to do this, that, and the third, eat lunch at this time, come back at this time, get picked up by your parents, oh, you can't do this in class. Anyone who had kind of a disagreement with that should be listening to this in terms of like turning your passion into a paycheck, because that's a like-minded person, I think.
If you're living and existing in California, in San Diego, in Los Angeles, in New York, in Florida, like let's just cut the bullshit right now. Like I know people who live on the street that have iPhones. iPads.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
everyone wants to sit here and pretend like this has anything to do with direct access to resources.
No.
Like or with people who are with personalities who are willing to take high risks. In my opinion, if rock bottom means that you get to take clean showers at 24-hour fitness and eat samples at Costco and live in your van, like to me, that sounds good. So maybe there's just some sort of psychological differential or some sort of detachment to the need to feed the norms.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, chasing passions never seemed high risk to me because I always felt like rock bottom here wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So maybe what we're doing isn't much different than everyone. Maybe it's just only perspective. Like
I think that's totally true. I think that's absolutely true.
but to think that someone could lay out a recipe, like there's no
baseline
recipe
for this shit.
Yeah.
No,
There's no baseline.
There's no
for-
baseline. But
The best you can do though is what you were saying is regardless of how where you get to in your craft, where people look up to you within the muralist San Diego world, you're still learning, and you're still even when you're still saying I'm just an apprentice still with tattoo, but I bet you're great.
Yeah, totally. I have no problem taking that name, and I'll probably even claim apprentice even as I'm older. But like that's the thing. This is like the classroom. Life really is just like this huge classroom.
Exactly.
So,
No, that's true.
Yeah.
There's no solid like way to do this. So like to pretend there is, and then that's the issue though. To not only do that, but then compare.
yeah, they really want it
Yeah.
to look a certain way.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the issue. I think that's super powerful. I think you guys spoke to it a ton of times, like how people can really just, I don't want to say again, it's not easy in the sense of you're going to have to still like grind your butt off.
Yeah, but if you're doing it with something that you really love,
It's not going to feel like a grind.
shouldn't you be waking up excited to do like whatever your favorite thing is? So go
Yeah.
try to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm at a loss for words.
It's more like a smile. Like, I'm probably gonna sleep like 4 hours tonight, but I'm gonna complete this project. Versus I'm only gonna sleep 4 hours tonight, and I have to be at this tomorrow. It's
Yeah,
like
if you're thinking
different-
like that, you're not doing the right
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just you have to be like it's just like the the want to put out that project and share it almost.
Bankers love money.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. We even said it's like, some people don't necessarily just have a passion to paychecks. It could be a passion for paychecks, and like, whether that.
And then for us, it's not even the paycheck. It's the freedom that the paycheck provides.
Yep.
Which for us doesn't have to be that high.
Oh yeah, no, but to a certain degree, you do have to also admit it does kind of feel cool.
Yeah.
It does kind of feel cool getting a little money. It does I mean, it's pretty neat. I mean, I think that's awesome. I think we ran the gamut on a lot of great subjects. I think we could cover. I mean, is there anything else? We could cover some more stuff. Definitely. I mean, I have.
Dude, I'm enjoying my time hanging out with you.
Yeah.
I inevitably enjoy my time hanging out with her. I'm drinking a beer. Like, we're in no rush, but we've cut through a lot of stuff.
A lot of great stuff.
I'm a big fan of the podcast, but in general, I think just people really need to understand that, like, you're never going to get to the platform. Like, you're going to always be looking up at the platform and climbing your mountain, and you're never really going to get there. Like, let's be real. You could set a series of goals that are a metaphor for the platform. But when you knock those goals out, that night, you fall asleep thinking about the next series of goals. You don't fall asleep thinking about the platform. Like, it's a dragon that you'll always be chasing. So knowing that you're never going to be ready for it, like, there really isn't a better time than now. Like, I'm not an inspirational speaker, but I'm just saying, like, there's something that you could be doing now that's going to get you closer to being the person that you want to be. And you're going to be more happy later when you did that now, because then you can do the next thing.
I would definitely agree.
So, like, the matrix that we live in isn't that complicated. No. Like, your brain pumps out the dopamine you need when you're moving in the right direction. Yeah. So this generation really needs to just take a quick second and jot down what success looks like to them. Yep. And just make sure that they're always taking the baby steps in that direction. And money isn't easy. Yeah. Happiness isn't easy. Both of those things are always fleeting, but it's fun to move in the right direction at a nice, comfortable pace with people that you like. It's Absolutely. All about that journey, and that's all there is. So
I totally agree.
We all just need to lock in together and help each other on that path and make it fun.
Yeah.
And stop doing shit we hate, and stop getting involved with that shit that's tying up all your time.
Exactly. If you're sitting there and saying, I'm gonna do this, that, and the third, just rock it out. Especially if you're in San Diego.
Yeah, send us a DM.
Send us.
We'll put you on or connect you with someone that you can create with. Like, we're about that.
And likewise, I would love to interview you and share your story and your message, just like we got to talk about your guys' story and your message. And it is very powerful to hear it from someone who's actually putting the plans into fruition. So I do want to thank you guys for your time, and thank you for sharing your journey and your wisdom. The one last thing, it's always nice to just re-summarize it. It's always nice to just, if there was a tangible way, whether it's someone who's doing it part-time, or someone who's doing it full-time and is about to give up, or someone who's not doing it at all and wants to convince themselves that I can do this when I get home from my 9 to 5 and eventually turn that into a full-time. What would you guys impart as folks who are putting that into fruition?
Figure out what success looks like.
Yeah.
Because for each individual, that's going to be different. So first of all, you have to identify where you see yourself. What do you want to be? Like, that's number one, right? I think that the more reasonable you are with that, and the more honest you can be with yourself about what happiness is, the less you'll be identifying success as something that isn't very fulfilling. That's a great way to put it.
Wow.
But the more that you're able to self-reflect and figure out what does help you go to sleep smiling, and you clearly identify that, then setting up a plan to get there in a relatively short amount of time. And, like, to me, those commitments look like a year, 2 years. I like to make a plan about a year long. I mean, when you go further than that for artists, it's hard to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to keep at this for 3 years. Like, in 3 years, you might be somewhere totally different. But 1 year, anyone can do anything for 1 year. So get your calendar together, set up some baby steps, get your 1 year plan together, think about where you're going to be, and try to get there. And what I've noticed when you do that is you're usually there in 6 months. Like you usually realize if you do what you said you would do each day, you get there a lot sooner than you think.
Yeah.
And then that gets the momentum going. And then that makes the next 6 months easier because you did twice as much as you thought. And then you're like, okay, well, I'll just set up 6 month goals to this next year. I mean, that's what we did. We really set up a lot of short landmarks that we could sit on.
Like you were realistic too.
Yeah.
And then that almost like your expectations were almost less, and that helped. Once you exceeded the expectations earlier, you
got
were
excited.
Like, oh, hello.
Yep, that snowball was rolling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I would just say, identify what the goal is, get a small strategy together, discipline yourself to come up with a daily routine that is getting you stepping in this direction.
Wow.
And then just be willing to love yourself along the way, so that every now and then when your human comes out and you and you mess some things up.
Dude,
I know, but we don't want to get demonetized.
We're
YouTube's
explicit.
crazy.
Oh, is it really? Are they?
Hello. Yeah.
Sorry, YouTube.
Beep. So, you heard it here first.
Yeah, I
Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. I think that's, and being realistic is super important too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No one expects anything here to change overnight.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't work like
start
that.
simply, be real with yourself. Yeah, ask real questions to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, what actually,
And other people too.
which in its own is like, it's a nuance sometimes. And and then you can really just, the baby steps. I know that's uncomfortable because we've been told leaps and bounds is where it's at, which honestly I think is easier to see in hindsight after you've done all this stuff. You're like,
I could have done this. I could have done that.
Yeah,
Because you have a tendency to just summarize.
Yeah, it's all 2020 in hindsight. You're like, I
Totally.
could have done that and done that. But if you'd have known that, you'd have done that shit.
Yeah, like a year ago, I couldn't believe that right now I would be deep into my apprenticeship as a tattoo artist. I would have no idea.
She
Incredible.
does all her own tattoos.
Yeah,
She's not giving herself enough credit.
I
If
know,
anyone
I
would have
know.
seen her
It's all
artwork
good. Just check it
prior
out.
to her apprenticeship, they would understand that of course she's where she is. She just doesn't have,
I know,
she's in her
but,
own
like,
bubble.
my own brain.
But is that how you kind of stay hungry in a way?
Yeah.
It
does help her.
Stay hungry, stay humble, but
But know yourself too.
But know yourself,
Yeah, if you're badass, you're badass. Like, own it, but don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, being humble and a badass is a pretty damn powerful thing.
Yeah, and it's hard. You're
tough.
always walking that tightrope.
Yeah. No, I mean, because you want to spread the love of being a badass in a way, but you can do it too, but you don't want to this is what you have to do. This is what, but
Exactly.
impart wisdom always. And I appreciate you guys imparting wisdom today. I think, if you guys want to give any shout outs to any like sponsors or anything.
Here.
Yeah.
I brought my.
Yeah,
I was
please.
like, dude, I'm never gonna remember my sponsors.
I know South Park Brewing is on there.
Okay, let's put a shout out to Loud Thoughts. Those are our streetwear sponsors. We want to give a shout out to all the CRV San Diego Recycle Centers. They give all our painters access to constant walls and containers to paint. Just keeps us painting constantly. We also have a sponsorship from Sprayer's Shop. Our boy Guy from Paris, he actually writes pastis. Go. He's our big paint sponsor. Always hooking it up with the paint, 360 paint. South Park Brewing is always keeping our team not thirsty with their quality micro brews. And then we have a fiscal sponsorship from Media Art San Diego that all our donations go through. So if you're interested in getting involved or in touch with us, you can shoot us an email at projects@bsdmurals.com, or you can hit us with a DM on the Instagram, or you can hit our YouTube. Yeah, you can hit us anywhere, and we're going to do our best to get back to everyone about anything they're curious about.
Awesome. And hit them up first and foremost. And if you didn't remember to do that, hit us up because we will direct you to where you need to go and find them.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna wait to do you stall out, but thank you so much for your time, guys. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Aleck. I appreciate you, Carla. I appreciate BSD. I appreciate everything you guys are doing, not only for art in general, but just San Diego as a city, as a community, as a creator myself. I love it. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the ODDCAST, where we talk about folks who are turning their passion into profession.
Yeah, buddy.
Passion to paychecks.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Let's get a little weird. Let's get a little odd. Those sounds you like to hear. We got it going on. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast.